All right, getting ready for chapter 9 in page 708. There are some vocabulary words. 709, there's this cartoon, and I think you're going to need this on one of the homework problems later on in the chapter. And the chapter starts on page 711. Probability of simple events. So you're probably going to want some notes out for this chapter. Okay, so probability is the chance that something's going to happen. A simple event is one outcome or a collection of outcomes. So what is an outcome? Let's see here. So the math definition, a possible result in a probability experiment. So real world, you might just say something that could happen. The way an experiment turns out otherwise would also work. Okay, so down at the bottom. For a sledding trip, you randomly select one of those 4 hats there to the right. You've got a red, blue, purple, and green hat. Complete the table to show the possible outcomes. So basically, close your eyes, pick a hat. You might have picked a green hat. That's the first outcome. So the second, the third, the fourth outcome would be a red hat, a blue hat, and a purple hat. So number 1 says, write a ratio that compares the number of blue hats to the total number of hats. So write a fraction showing that. How many blue hats are there? 1. How many hats are there? 4. So your fraction should be 1/4. Number 2, describe a hat display in which you would have a better chance of selecting a red hat. So you can pause and write that down. I might write down 2 red hats and a blue hat. Maybe you could write down 2 red hats and 1 blue, 1 purple, 1 green hat. Something like that. Those would be possible answers. So on page 712, like we just wrote down a fraction, a ratio for blue hats out of total hats on the last question, last page. So that's what we're talking about here. Like the symbols, the probability, P, of the event, in parentheses, means the number of favorable outcomes. That means what you're asking for over the total number of outcomes possible. Okay, so reading here, probability that of a chance event is somewhere between 0 and 1. So it's a fraction. It could be as low as 0, like it's not going to happen. So for example, in the hats, on the hat question, you had a red, a green, a purple, and a blue. So if I were to say, what's the probability of picking a yellow hat? That would have been 0. There's 0 yellow hats. Okay, or 1 means it's going to happen for sure, 100%. So say in the drawer there were 3 blue hats, and that's it, no other hats. So what is the probability of closing your eyes and picking a blue hat? 100%, because that's all there was. So there's the difference in those fractions and those numbers. Random is highlighted in yellow. That just means equally likely chance to occur. Completely at random. Okay, example 1. There are 6 equally likely outcomes if you roll this number cube, 1 through 6. Find P of 6. So find the probability of rolling a 6. Okay, how many 6s are on that cube? 1. How many numbers are on that cube? 6. So the probability is 1/6. Okay, pause the video and try letter A. A coin is tossed. Find the probability of a coin landing on a heads. Write your answer as a fraction, percent, and decimal. So go ahead and pause. And you should have wrote down 1/2. 1 heads. And how many outcomes are on the coin? A heads and a tails. 2. 1 over 2. 1/2. 50%. The decimal, 0.5. Okay, moving on. Number 2, find the probability of rolling a 2, 3, or 4 on the number cube. So the word or is important. The word or needs to include those, and 2, 3, and 4. So the way it's wrote here, let me get my pen here, right here. The probability of getting a 2, 3, or 4. Well, how many 2s are there? 1. How many 3s? 1. How many 4s? 1. So there's 3. So there's 3 favorable outcomes out of 6 ways, 6 numbers on the dice. So you can write that 3 out of 6, or 1/2, which is 50%, 0.5. Okay, looking at the spinner here in the got it. The spinner at the right is spun once. Find the probability of each event. Write the answer as a fraction, percent, and decimal. So go ahead and pause the video and do B, C, and D. Okay, the probability of spinning the letter F. How many F's are there on that spinner? 1. How many letters? How many equal, I shouldn't even say how many letters. How many spaces? 10. So 1 out of 10. So 1 out of 10, 0.1, or 10%. Letter C, the probability of a D or a G. There's 1 D and 1 G. So that's 2 out of 10, which is 1/5. I don't care how you write it. Either way is fine. 0.2 or 20%. Okay, vowels. How many vowels? We have an A, E, and an I. 3 vowels on that spinner. So that's 3/10, which is 0.3 or 30%. Okay, complementary events. All right, it's not hard, just a new word for you. A complement of an event means one or the other must happen, but they cannot happen at the same time. For example, a coin can either land on a heads or not on a heads, right? It can land on a heads or a tails. So the complement of tossing a coin and rolling a heads, the complement of that is not rolling the heads. Okay, so that means if you add up the event and its complement, you're going to get 100%. Because what's the probability of rolling a heads? 1/2. What's the probability of not rolling the heads or tossing? 1/2. And 1/2 and 1/2 make 100%. So look at number 3. Find the probability of not rolling a 6 in example 1. So we had a 6-sided number cube. So the probability of not rolling a 6 is 5. There's 5 of them that are not 6s. The 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and the 5. So the probability of not rolling the 5 is 5 out of 6. All right, let's look at letter E. A bag contains 5 blue, 8 red, and 7 green marbles. A marble is selected at random, means close your eyes and pick one. Find the probability that the marble is not red. So, how many marbles are there? There's 20. So that's going to be our denominator. How many are red? 8. So how many are not red? 12. So you can just leave it as 12 out of 20. I don't care. You can write 6 out of 10. 60%. Okay. Mr. Harada surveyed his class and discovered that 30% of his students have blue eyes. Identify the complement of that and find the probability. Well, you can either have blue eyes or not have blue eyes. And so we have 30% have blue eyes. So how many don't have blue eyes? 70%. 7 out of 10. The complements are actually quite easy, and a lot of times it's not hard to figure those out. Okay? So here's the guided practice. The letter tile is chosen randomly. Find the probability of each event and then write the answers of fraction, percent, and decimal. So number 1 says the probability of getting the D on the number tile or the letter tiles. So just closing your eyes and drawing one. Number 2, the probability of S, V, or L. Number 3, the probability of not a D. So basically if you do number 1, you can do number 3 because it's just the opposite. And then go ahead and do number 4. So pause the video and try numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, the probability of a D. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tiles. So all of these are going to be over 9. How many D's are there? 1. So that's 1/9. How many S's are there? 1. How many V's? 1. How many L's? 1. So we have 3 out of 9. And if you did number 1 and you got 1/9, then how many are not D's? 8 out of 9. And then go ahead and you should have the decimal and the percent wrote down for those. Remember what I told you about ninths? So you shouldn't even have needed a calculator, right? Ninths, 0.11 forever. 11%, approximately. 3/9, 1/3, 0.3 forever. 8/9, 0.8 forever. 88%, 89%, 88.8%. Okay? Number 4, the probability of choosing a go back 1 space card in a board game is 25%. Describe the complement of that and find the probability. So the probability of choosing a go back 1 space card is not drawing a go back 1 space. I'm just gonna abbreviate it. Card. And what's the complement? 75%. Okay. So homework, I would do page 715 for sure. If you have extra time, you find that this is fun. I always think that probability is fun. Go ahead and do page 716 if you want to give that a try too. I'll have the answers for both pages on the next lesson.